Hello, welcome to the Fifth Star. I'm Jamie.
And I'm Albert.
Today we're breaking from our regular rhythm again to talk about Silo Season 2.
Yeah.
Albert, once again, watched all of Season 1 and 2 together, like a month ago?
Yeah. I mean, pretty much right leading into the last final episode of Season 2.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Whereas
so-
I forgot stuff
Yeah.
because I saw Season 1 when it came out, so there were a lot of things that I needed refreshing on, but
Yeah,
it's fresh for
so
you.
we'll give, our initial thoughts. We'll try to be as spoiler-free as possible in the
Yep.
beginning, and then we will go into a whole section, spoilers, kind of reacting to things that happen in Season 2. And then in the end, we're going to talk about the ending.
Yeah.
Try to make sense of it, and then come up with our theories and guesses to what that all means for Season 3.
Mhm.
So, Jamie, to start off, why don't you tell us what you thought of Season 2?
I had mixed feelings. So I really liked Season 1 a lot. There were moments where it kind of had trouble picking up.
Mhm.
And I noticed the same sort of issue with Season 2. At least the first 5-ish episodes, it felt very slow. And I kept wanting more answers or more development. And then after episode 5, it just went real quick.
Mm.
Like the action really picked up, all the development really came to a head and just started to ramp to the finale. And then the finale was like go, go, go the whole time.
Mm.
So, yeah.
Yeah, so I really liked Season 2 a lot. I actually think I liked it better than Season 1.
Okay.
And I don't know, again, kind of this happened with Squid Game. I don't know if it's because I'm watching things Season 1 so much later than everyone, and I'm not caught in the hype at the moment, and then just watching it connected right into Season 2. So Season 1, it sets everything up. It felt like a whole season of just setup and anticipation.
Yeah.
And what we're really just wanting to know is what is the truth about the outside, right? And it does a great job of doing a reverse twist of kind of teasing that the display is a lie and all that, but in the end it's revealed that it isn't a lie. It actually is Doomsday outside. But Season 2, I thought, gave me so much more of the answers that I wanted, because now we're seeing the outside as part of the season. And again, try not to get too much into spoilers, but it does raise a lot more questions.
Yes.
But
there's a lot more mysteries.
Yeah, which is good and exciting for Season 3, but it also does give a lot more answers to the questions I had in Season 1 and fills out kind of the whole context of everything going on so much more.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed that part of it.
Yeah. I think the only other thing I can say without spoiling
Mhm.
is Steve Zahn is in Season 2.
Yeah.
I won't tell you who he plays, but he does such an incredible job.
He really
I
is
just
amazing.
loved every scene he was in. And like, oh my word, I want him to win an Emmy so bad now.
Yeah, I agree with that. He was fantastic.
Yeah.
And also I thought, like, in Season 1, Tim Robbins is, an important character.
Yeah.
But in Season 2, he really is so critical to
He's
the whole
more
season.
front and center.
Yeah. And I thought Season 2 really showcased just how great of an actor he was.
Yeah.
And
I'd agree.
Fun fact, Tim Robbins went to my high school back in New York City.
Weird.
Yeah, Stuyvesant
Way
High
before
School.
you were there.
Shout out. Way before I was there. Yeah. But I always knew that ever since I saw Shawshank Redemption. Like, oh, this guy went to my high school.
And obviously Rebecca Ferguson.
Yeah.
She's such a good actress. She keeps like proving how good of an actress she is with everything that she is cast in nowadays.
Yeah, for sure. I also wanted to say just the production design and the world building is so amazing. I mean, Season 1 really does show that, but Season 2 just continues to show, like, they start to push what it happens in the silo and what they can do with like this set, and it really is incredible. I just saw behind the scenes that it's really just like one floor that they built.
Wow.
And everything else is like blue screened out. And that's just mind-blowing to me.
I guess they can do that because every floor looks the same.
It does. And all the, whenever you tilt up and you see the floors above or people looking down and all these things, like, that's like all visual effects.
Yeah.
Which is amazing.
Makes
And
sense.
there's a sequence that we'll talk about in the spoiler section, but I was just like, my mind was blown at how they shot all of that.
Yeah.
Because it's based on these series of books.
Right.
They have so much material to tap into that I thought that they really do a good job of just like bringing all that to the screen. We don't know exactly what year it is, but it seems kind of like it's some dystopian future, but it they have technology that's kind of stuck at a certain year,
Yeah.
right? So they do have computers and things like that. But I just thought there was one major flaw with this whole series,
Okay.
which is that we have computers, but they never figured out that they could just use a windshield wiper on the little outdoor camera, and then we wouldn't have to send people out to clean. So I just thought, man, if they just had windshield wipers, there wouldn't really be a need for all of this drama.
Well, then the cleaners would have to go change the batteries instead of...
No, the batteries are run from power from inside. I guess they might have to change the windshield wiper
Maybe.
eventually at some point. Anyway.
That's a good point.
Yeah. But so we'll get into the actual breakdown of things that happened throughout the season. So, just disclaimer, we have not read the book, so we aren't going to comment on what actually could potentially happen based on the material. Well, it's just purely based on what we've seen in the show.
Yes.
What did you think?
So, opening it up, when Juliet gets out of her silo, she immediately finds another silo, but it looks like, just destruction everywhere. And so it brings about all of these mysteries about like, okay, what happened to this silo? We get some flashbacks, some context, but now it's just kind of alluding to this is going to happen in her silo now because she went out to clean and isn't coming back. But it really opens up as just kind of like a survival genre.
Yeah.
Which I'm not always a fan of.
Really? Oh, I love survival stuff.
I think it was like hard for me because it was really tense and I enjoyed the intensity a lot. But I remember just kind of feeling like, okay, we're just watching her try to survive for an entire 40 minutes, basically. And then when she meets Steve Zahn in the vault, it's like, oh, wow. Okay, now I'm intrigued. But then the episode ends.
Yeah.
And so the whole first episode, I was like, man, they're really stretching this out. And it was like really well done. And Rebecca Ferguson like just does such a good job. But it was such a slow beginning. And then they go into all the politics and like Judge Meadows and Bernard and the other silo for episode 2. And that felt really slow to me as well, because a lot of it was sort of recapping where the last season left off. But then it was also adding a lot of, political discourse, which was interesting. But again, it felt so stretched out to me that I was kind of like, okay, I'm ready to move on, sort of. Maybe I just have a short attention span.
I think you do, because I disagree.
Okay. I felt like it just was so slow up until episode 5.
Man, okay, so first episode, what a crazy beginning. You just suddenly start showing these other characters that we've not seen in this other silo, and then they just...
One character.
No, like the whole group of people like having the rebellion, and then they like fight their way across the bridge, and then like go outside, and then eventually it like quickly it's kind of revealed like they all just died, right? Yeah. But it was just I was just like, oh, wait, are we just totally flash forwarding to a different story? Like we're not referencing what happened in season 1 at all. Like where's Rebecca Ferguson? I was so confused at first, but then it did such a great job when we see her now. She's in that silo.
Yeah.
And then think like, okay, she's somewhere, there's nobody there. She's trying to survive, and figure out how, what's going on. But then sees that someone's in the vault, right? And so that's super surprising and shocking.
That was the very end.
Yeah, of episode 1. But then in episode 2, I kind of agree with you. Like, we don't see her at all. And especially because of her walking out and then going over the hill, which has never happened before.
Yeah.
It's causing all these, people getting nervous and anxious. Like,
it's setting up a rebellion.
Yeah, exactly. So that's all happening, which I thought was really interesting too, because of the politics involved.
Yeah.
But I was concerned, like, okay, are we not really going to see Rebecca Ferguson at all?
I know.
So I was worried about that. But then we see in episode 3, we're going to see her going back and forth between what's going on her and, between the two silos. And by episode 3, we pretty much know everything that in terms of the stakes of season 2.
Yeah.
Which is she has to get back. Otherwise, what happened in this silo is going to happen in her silo.
Yes.
And I thought that was so great because it really kind of starts the ticking time clock, and they really carry that out throughout the rest of the season.
Yeah.
Because as the episodes go on, you see the rebellion happening, getting closer and closer. and then the timing of her like potentially needing to get back. So I thought that was like all just brilliantly done and expertly done. I really liked the survival element of it because I felt like I was watching an RPG with whenever it cut to her, because it was like
It's a video game.
she was basically like Lara Croft in Tomb Raider or something.
Yeah,
You know,
she was.
she's in this kind of like space and trying to figure out, okay, I have to get over this bridge, or I have to, do this, or get a suit. And she's trying to puzzle together and solve like these different challenges.
Yeah.
And I just love that about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think my main thing
Mhm.
was that I cared way more about her storyline as it developed. Like once she meets Solo,
Mhm.
Steve Zahn's character, I really cared so much more about that storyline than I did about the original Silo. And I
Mm.
think that's mainly because I didn't really ever connect with any of the mechanical characters other
Mhm.
than probably Walker. I think Walker's the best
Yeah, I agree
mechanical
with that.
character.
Yeah.
But like I didn't really care about Knox or Campbell, which made it hard because they were such a focus point
Yeah.
for this season. I mean, if they died, I wouldn't have cared.
Yeah,
basically.
I think I agree with that.
And
Yeah.
and that makes it hard when you're watching their characters, but then you just want to go back to the other storyline. So that made it a little tricky for me. But then yeah, I really liked Bernard's development, and then
He was awesome.
yeah, and then as like the season goes on, you see like the tension build between him and Sims, which was interesting. And then
But
his
it-
wife takes a huge front row seat in this season.
Yeah.
She was a complete background character.
Mhm.
So it was really interesting to see her kind of come out as well and them
Yeah.
use her.
Yeah, I mean, I think that whole power play between initially Judge Meadows and then Mayor Bernard, that was really interesting. And then they developed kind of Judge Meadows' character and kind of what she really wanted and her role and all of this stuff. Then with Sims and him trying to get a seat of influence, I found that stuff really interesting and intriguing.
Yeah.
And it was all kind of connected to the bigger themes of classism that
Yeah.
this does bring up. And I think season 2 unpacks more because it's setting up for the rebellion of how you have like the uppers and the lowers, and then the uppers are, the mayor is trying to set up what he's told to do in the order book, right?
Yeah.
That you have to kind of pigeonhole, or I don't know what's
The
word?
pact.
Yeah. Oh, the pact. Well, not the pact. In the server room, there's like the book of the order, and it tells you
yeah.
like in this situation do this.
Yeah.
And you find out that basically every rebellion has followed the same script of
yeah.
you blame all the problems on the lowers, and you kind of have the uppers look down on them as almost like subhuman, and all the problems in society are caused by the poor people and all that kind of stuff. And then that ends up eventually you wipe out the the poor people and then replace them, and then you just kind of rinse and repeat.
Yeah, and
So-
the mechanical is like always behind the rebellion or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then they start to figure that stuff out
Mhm.
because of the clues left behind by the previous generations.
Yeah.
And so I just loved all of that. You have the uppers and lowers and these different classes, but what connects all of them is a stairway,
yeah.
which is in the shape of a DNA strand, right?
Yeah.
So it's really kind of symbolic of, regardless of what class you're born into, it's our humanity that kind of connects all of us still.
Ooh,
yeah. So I thought that was a
wow.
kind of cool idea.
I did never thought about it
Yeah.
that way.
So I think all the power play stuff, because it was set up really well in terms of what's at stake
Yeah.
of what happened in Solo's silo,
right.
I thought it was really interesting and fascinating. And whenever the mayor is in like a bind because of what the mechanical is trying to do, he figures out like a clever like political way to get around it.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really smart.
I think for me, it was really just a pacing issue.
Okay.
Because I agree. I liked the beats of the story
Mhm.
overall. It just was so stretched out and it felt very sluggish in the beginning. Like,
Hmm.
I really enjoyed getting to know the characters more, but some of the scenes I was like, I felt like I learned nothing from that scene. Like, what was the point of that scene?
Okay.
Was it just to like fill time because we need to like, I don't know, reach a certain minute? But
Yeah.
there were moments like that in the beginning that I was kind of like, this feels like cushion time.
Hmm.
And that kind of bothered me.
I do
but-
think this is symptomatic of TV shows in general. And this is why I
being stretched out.
Yeah, I kind of tend to favor movies instead of TV shows, because TV shows, you have certain plot points at the beginning and the end of the season that you have to hit. Throughout, you have whole episodes that are fillers sometimes.
Yeah.
But each episode is structured like it has to end with a hook that makes you want to binge and click on the next episode.
Which it does very well.
Which it does really well, because I'll be up till 2 a.m. because my wife kept wanting to watch the next episode. And then it kind of resolves at the very first few minutes or the first few scenes, and then you get the title credits, and then it's kind of like a slow build up towards the next cliffhanger at the end of the episode. And so the middle of each episode, I agree, it could feel kind of slow, but I almost feel like that's every show. What I like about this show is that no full episodes felt like just fillers.
That's true.
I did feel like every episode kept
you
advancing.
at least learned something in each episode.
Whereas in the first season, I did feel like a few episodes in the middle of this first season did feel like just kind of fillers, where we just didn't really go anywhere at all.
It was like a character episode, basically.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. Or a world building episode.
Yeah. But now, in terms of, let's talk about the solo kind of storyline with Rebecca Ferguson. What was kind of your favorite scene or moments kind of in her storyline? Because I agree with you. Those were awesome. Yeah.
So the end of episode 5, I think it's episode 5, when he's shouting at her, I physically felt like he was shouting at me, and I legitimately got so scared. I was like, I've never been afraid of Steve Zahn before.
Yeah.
Normally I can't take him seriously at all. So I think that's why he was so impressive. But him just like screaming at her, and then her reaction of just like completely tightening up, like that scene was just so good. And then it moves into more of his backstory. Like as we're going, you're like the whole time you're like, is he trustworthy? Is he like gonna kill her?
Yeah.
Or is he actually like a sweet guy and innocent?
Yeah.
And you're just questioning that the whole time. And I think they did such a good job doing that. Because I felt that way. Every episode I was like, I think he's a good guy. No, he's a bad guy. He's a good guy. He's a bad guy. Incredible. Keeping me on my toes like that.
And it really was, I think, because of his performance.
Yeah.
He played like essentially an adolescent.
Yeah.
And you kind of get that sense where he just seems to be acting like a child as a grown man. But he's obviously been cooped up alone, talking to himself for a really long time.
It's like, are you a real person?
Yeah. And that whole thing kind of keeps you off kilter, and you're not really sure what to make of him. And then the reveal of kind of his backstory, and I did think it was teased a little too much in terms of, you know, with the classroom and all that. And like when it revealed, he was the kid in the classroom, and he was, you know, I thought half of that wasn't really surprising.
Yeah, we knew he was a kid.
Yeah.
But we didn't know he was the son of...
But I didn't know, he was a son of...
the IT guy.
Yeah. And so I do think his backstory was really interesting when we do kind of get to see more of who he is.
Yeah.
And I just really loved how he grows to really grow fond of Juliet, and that relationship feels very real. So one of the sweetest moments for me with his storyline was when her suit is damaged, that, you know, the kind of backup suit that she finds, and then so she has to kind of use the fire suit that she's concocted together, and he suddenly takes it, and you think like, oh no, he's taken and stolen it, and so how's she gonna get back to her silo? But then she finds out that he's just testing it for her underwater. Yeah. And that was so sweet.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure it was airtight.
Yeah. Which, by the way, for me, I think the highlight of the whole season for me was the underwater sequences. When she goes
so
underwater,
intense.
and then just is descending all those floors. And now knowing all that was done with just a single floor set is just mind-blowing to me. Yeah, like having to breathe through the pipe, and then, you know, her losing oxygen, and
then getting the bends.
Yeah, getting the bends, that whole thing.
Ugh.
It was just so well done. It was so intense.
Very intense.
And I thought they do such a great job of you know, a lot of times, especially when you have like strong female protagonists, you know, you get into the whole girl boss thing where she can do everything.
Yeah.
Because you're overcompensating for trying to say, oh, women aren't weak, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then here, she actually suffers a lot, and they put her through the grinder.
Yeah.
And you know, she gets shot by an arrow and all that, and I thought that was just so well done.
And she's still pretty flawed because I remember getting frustrated with her at the beginning because she's so impatient. And I get why she's impatient. Like, that's totally justified.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I was like, man, you just got to be more kind to this guy because he's clearly, you know, been alone this whole time and like he's trying to help you.
Yeah.
And you're just treating him like he's super annoying and a waste of space. And I was frustrated with her for that. But then by the end, like, she does this whole speech about how we need to be kind to each other and how we have to work together and we can't treat each other like dirt and stuff. So it was a really cool growth moment, I thought, for her.
Yeah.
So yeah, I totally agree. She was a girl boss with flaws that ended up really learning and overcoming by the end of the season. And yeah, I think we need more of that.
Yeah, for sure. Another thing I really liked about the season is that kind of minor characters become really prominent characters.
Yeah, like Camille.
Yeah, Camille. But I also think especially Lucas. You know, he was just totally some guy. Yeah, in the first season in the cafeteria, right? This season, he becomes so integral to everything that's happening. And so him becoming the Mayor's Shadow was such an awesome moment. Him coming into the vault and then going into the legacy, I think they call it, where he's learning all the information.
The big library,
yeah. And then that's when we really get to unpack the history of the silos, you know, and all that stuff that we've been wanting to know as he's finding out some of this information. And then the whole safeguard thing. He figures out how to get to the tunnel and then the voice. And so all of that was just like, oh my gosh, what is happening? And we're all experiencing it through the Lucas character.
Yes.
Which is also awesome because then he finds out something that we don't know, that he whispers to Bernard, and basically
complete
Bernard,
cliffhanger.
Yeah, it's just like, okay, it's over now. I'm just going to go outside. And what's the point?
It's super interesting because Lucas's character, so when he becomes the Shadow, that's when I started caring a lot more about their storyline. Because I liked Lucas from the first season too. He's just like a very likable character. When he starts learning all of this information, you're super intrigued by what he has to learn. And then when he does go in the tunnel and they reveal that like all the people who previously went through, what was it? It was Judge Meadows.
Yep.
So we know Judge Meadows.
George.
We know why she became an alcoholic. Then George, who unofficially went through.
Yeah.
Which I don't know why he wasn't killed for that.
Yeah, I think he didn't hear the voice, though.
He didn't because he was unofficial.
Mm-hmm.
So somehow he was able to get through still. And then Salvador Quinn.
Oh, yes.
Those are the only people that had like been through and know the truth about the silo, I guess. But I really want to know the truth.
Yeah. The question of what did Lucas tell Mayor Bernard is kind of a big question that we're left hanging with.
Yes.
And yeah, I don't know. Do you have any guesses? I'm guessing it means.
Oh yeah, let's get into theories.
Yeah. So I'm guessing it has something to do with this AI algorithm thing that's in the server room, in the vault, that is kind of controlling everything and telling everyone the piece of information they need to know. But I'm guessing it has something to do with a safeguard and that everyone's going to get killed.
So I think that he learned, this is the only theory I have right now. I think he learned that the people who created the silos are also responsible for the bombings.
Okay.
Like they actually wiped out the world above and destroyed it.
All right. Well, that gets into the question about the whole bomb and the very end of the season, which is a flashback to, I guess, modern time.
Yeah.
And the senator meeting the reporter and her kind of probing about what happened with the dirty bomb from Iran and are we going to retaliate? So
and then her finding the Pez, so we know that she's involved with the silo somehow.
Yeah, like she might have been one of the first ones in that silo, and that's why I got left behind.
But don't you think that makes sense? Because all the people who know the truth became super depressed. Like, super depressed, there's no hope. I'm not going to be a shadow anymore. I'm giving up. Like Meadows became an alcoholic.
Yeah. So I'm guessing they already know that the outside is really genuinely toxic, right? And
Yeah.
so they know there's no kind of life potential outside. So why does finding out what happened and how they got there, how does that impact them if they're already living in the silo?
Mm-hmm.
Like what kind of hope are they living for anyway? It didn't seem like they had really hope of some kind of thing in the outside world. So I'm kind of thinking it might have to do more with maybe the failsafe has some kind of reboot where every few generations they just like kill everyone off. I don't know.
Oh, that's a good theory.
I mean, I don't know, but something where, or
they
maybe
just
because
start over again.
Yeah, but then how does that happen? Because in the other silo, like there's no one left. Well, you had like the little few survivors with a few.
That
kids.
was a failed silo.
Yeah, but you did have a few survivors who end up having children. So is that kind of how they restart? I don't know.
I didn't think about that.
Imagine this is like not a few decades apart or a few hundred years from the bombing initially, but thousands of years.
That's crazy. Well, then I think the Pez head would have disintegrated, but I don't know.
I don't know. Plastic lasts forever.
I think I agree. So another thing I was thinking about, though, was why do they have to keep their history such a secret? Why are they not allowed to know about their past? Yeah. Why is it so protected and only the head of IT is allowed to know the truth? Why do they do it like that, do you think?
I would say the explanation that seems to be on the surface that we're kind of given is that will give them too much of a strong desire to want to go out, because you see these, and that's one thing.
Even if they know the truth that the outside is toxic?
I don't know.
You think it'll make them too depressed?
Maybe. I mean,
that could be true.
Because one thing I do love about the season or the whole series is just how the smallest thing that we take for granted, like a picture of nature, or animals, is so valuable to them. It's a priceless item, right? And you see the kind of hope and impact it has on these different people, even good and bad characters, right? So I think like that kind of power that can happen and the potential turmoil that could come up, it almost is like ignorance is better. And that's the whole Salvador Quinn thing, right? Salvador Quinn supposedly saved the silo and brought a long period of peace because there had been just this constant cycle of rebellion after rebellion after rebellion of people wanting to kind of fight the system, not be held down, and go outside, I think, right? But for the sake of the bad air not coming in, they had to keep killing those people off. But Salvador Quinn, I guess, the brilliant thing that he supposedly did was he erased all of the memory in the history.
That's true.
So that people kind of are just left wondering, how did we get here? But they don't really know what's at stake, and they don't have a desire to go outside.
That's true.
They're just like living, in that delusion, I guess.
And then we do learn that the hard drive belonged to him. So it's interesting to think about, like, okay, how did the hard drive not get put in the vault? How did George find it and that kind of thing? We still don't have that answer.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because it's like maybe Salvador intentionally left that hard drive out for someone to find.
Someone to actually learn the truth.
Yeah, because he left a decoded letter with the truth on it.
That's true, yeah.
So it's almost like maybe that was his own personal safeguard of like, okay, even if I erase all of history, this hard drive still exists in case it's necessary for someone to find the truth out.
And, it does have a lot of parallels to, I think, real human history, right? Because you have societies and times in history where a leader did this kind of thing, where they would basically try to brainwash everybody and in some ways erase the past, like burning books and all these kinds of things, censorship, right? That's a major kind of element. But then truth is so powerful that people who find out the truth, like, do inevitably rise up, right? And overthrow those kinds of regimes.
So fascinating.
Yeah, so it's a very human thing that we're seeing in this kind of sci-fi world.
For sure.
And I think that's what people are afraid of. The people in power are afraid of the people who are not in power finding out the truth.
Yes.
That's kind of always the
Which
thing.
is Juliet's whole thing.
Yeah.
Which is super cool. But I want to ask you also, why do you think in the last episode the algorithm chose Camille.
Yeah, that was a major, because Sims is there too.
Sims is there and he's like, okay, Sims, you can leave.
Yeah. And I like that the algorithm chose Camille, because with Bernard, with Lucas, and now with Camille, they're all people who are like outside the box thinkers. Like even in the political scheming, Sims takes a very direct approach.
Yeah.
And really it's his wife who's kind of masterminding and thinking bigger picture and kind of telling him and guiding him in what to do. And so she really is, I think, the right person to kind of fill that role again.
And Sims is so power hungry that it's like maybe the algorithm noticed that and was like, okay, Camille's not power hungry. I don't know.
And okay, so another thing that I kind of was thinking was you find out that there are actually 50 silos, right? And I think 50 plus one.
Yeah.
So there's
51.
like one that's kind of controlling the other ones, it seems like. I think that's what's kind of was implied in that letter that he deciphered or something. And so that's interesting because in America we have 50 states and the plus one could be like Washington, D.C., right? That controls kind of the federal government, controlling kind of the states. And so this is kind of something that I heard referenced by somebody who was kind of giving theories. Each silo might be dedicated to a state. So the top, 10,000, is it 10,000 people in each silo? Do you remember?
Yeah, something like that. I don't remember the number.
So however many of those people got won or bought tickets or won a lottery or, whatever, however that was all figured out, maybe got designated into like that silo, So I don't know if there's anything there.
That's possible because in this silo, they did find like Georgia stuff.
Yeah. Now,
so maybe it's Georgia's. And then at the end, he's the Georgia representative guy. Remember?
Oh, yeah.
He's the 14th.
So maybe that's why this is the Georgia silo, because people from Georgia, including him, and maybe because of he does maybe end up getting into a relationship with that reporter, and then maybe that's why she ends up going into the silo. But yeah, and then the other breakdown I saw, they referenced that the skyline in the end of season 1, when we see the kind of big overview and then you see the skyline in the distance, that looks like it might be Atlanta skyline.
I've heard that too. Yeah.
So but that's the weird thing, because if it is 50 state silos by state,
and they're all in Georgia.
Yeah, why aren't they spread out? Like, why are they all right outside, Atlanta suburbs?
Yeah.
What if there's actually 50 silos outside every major city? That could be crazy, right? So this is like what's happening here as we discover all this. Like at the end of season 3, we realize this has actually happened outside. This is happening outside every major city. Like
there are 50 silos in every state. Maybe,
yeah. So outside New York City, and then LA. So every major. No, I think maybe outside every major city, period.
And then maybe they all report to a
central one outside DC, maybe
in DC. Whoa,
that could be really interesting.
Whoa,
and around the world. I mean, it
is interesting because like, why is he's like a 14th representative or something. I can't remember his exact title at the end. He says he's like the district representative. Oh, the 14th district. Yeah.
Okay.
So I wonder if, since clearly he's involved, maybe each representative or leader
gets a seat in the silo.
Yeah, it was like the first founder.
Of a
gets
silo? To head each silo.
Maybe.
So people from that district get
and maybe
into their
he
silo.
Gets married to
the reporter.
Huh. I don't know.
Yeah, because it starts off with like them having this awkward potential date misunderstanding, right? Yeah.
So maybe they're the founders of the first silo.
That's true. They could be like the mother, father, right, of the original silo. But I also think it's really interesting to think whatever happened with Iran has become a global thing, because it can't just be affecting America, right?
Yeah, that's true.
We would just leave and go somewhere else.
Yeah.
So I think, is this happening all around the world? Like outside of Paris, are there 50 silos? Outside of Seoul, are there 50 silos? And
dude, it would be wild though if only America was impacted.
No, that just wouldn't make sense.
That would just be crazy.
I mean, it does say dirty bomb, but
like, what if on the other side of the world people are like, oh yeah, America's been wiped out. We just won't go there anymore.
That's true. I mean, there was the whole Mad Max theory where this is only happening in Australia and the rest of the world is just fine.
Really?
That was like a theory that some people had.
Oh my gosh. That's
So yeah, that
crazy.
could potentially be happening. But I
Dang.
think when you talk nuclear fallout, that devastating,
it impacts the
I'm
whole
guessing,
world.
everyone has to go into hiding. But that's the weird thing, because if it is 50 state silos by state,
And they're all in
why-
Georgia.
Yeah, why aren't they spread out? Like, why are they all right outside, Atlanta suburbs?
Well,
I
they
don't
must
know.
all share a generator. Because remember when the power went out in Solo's silo,
Mhm.
he still had power. So it's
So-
coming from somewhere.
So I think each silo has their own main generator, which we see
Right.
in Ferguson's silo, but they also have a backup generator.
which might be like the main silo. Maybe the
Uh,
tunnel leads to that main silo, and that's
I
what
don't
they
know.
see.
I'm guessing the power is all self-contained, because even the backup could be just run off battery, and then when the main generator's on, it like fills up the battery or something.
But how is that one silo able to stay on
For
for
that long?
however
I don't know.
long?
It's doing very minimal life support type things.
I guess
I think
so.
it's possible.
Well, the vault still had like lights and everything.
Yeah.
and
I mean, the vault might
Hmm.
also have its own separate backup.
that's what I'm saying. I
power
think the
thing.
vault might be tied
tied.
directly to
Okay, I could see that.
like a central power,
Mm.
and that's why they're all so close together.
Yeah, because we still don't know what is on the other side of that tunnel. Like, does it connect? Is it a way to connect into other silos? Or I think what you're kind of inferring is maybe they all connect back into that one central silo.
Yeah, that's
right?
what I'm thinking.
Hmm.
And when
Very
they walk
interesting.
through, they see the truth about this is actually what's controlling us.
Like, there is some other entity that is controlling everything.
Yeah.
Are they still alive?
So what's the point?
Are they watching?
Ooh.
I don't know. And when
And they
does
could just poison us at any moment.
exactly, when does the failsafe get tripped?
Yeah.
Because they say because the voice tells Lucas, if you tell anybody about what you saw or heard, right, it's gonna trip the failsafe.
Yeah. What's interesting though is that
But he tells Bernard.
Steve Zahn or Solo says like they didn't die at first. Remember he keeps saying
Well, he says when
they
they
get
left.
out,
Yeah.
they didn't die at first.
Oh.
And then they all died from the safeguard. Like they were poisoned. He says his
So the-
mom ran away to that secret room and then never came back. So
Yeah.
maybe his mom's still alive. And then everyone was poisoned.
Mm.
And
So
it seems like,
maybe it is some kind of like chemical bomb.
but why poison them if they were leaving?
I don't know. Maybe because if they get to another silo and you see them in the camera, like imagine if you're in another silo just going about your day to day, and in the camera you see a horde of people coming over in no suits or anything.
Yeah.
Like all of a sudden,
like,
that's
could
just
they
chaos.
make it that
Everyone's
far?
gonna come out,
Because it seems like they couldn't even make it that far.
but they didn't make it that far because they were poisoned, or because the air is actually
The
toxic.
air is actually toxic. Because, like, how did the sheriff die in season 1? He didn't have the right tape, right?
Yeah, that's true.
And
Yeah,
he
it
died
wasn't-
almost immediately.
Yeah, you're right. So it wasn't like there was some safeguard that went off that killed
That's
everyone.
what's so weird. It's
Yeah.
like, why would he imply that they were all
killed
killed by the
outside the solo
safeguard.
after they left.
when they were already leaving? Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
Hmm.
That's what kept confusing me, is I was like, okay, wait, is the truth that it actually is safe outside? Because no, it's not. But then why would they get poisoned if they were already leaving? I don't know.
Yeah.
So strange.
Well, lots of exciting questions to be answered in season 3.
I know.
Yeah.
There's
I mean,
a lot going on.
I'm looking forward to it. I think it answers and gives us a lot of things to kind of hold on to.
Yeah.
But it also raises a lot more questions, which is, I think, exactly what I had hoped for. I think it would have been really annoying if they didn't give us any answers from season 1.
Yeah.
And they just kind of kept us perpetually in that state. But it really did move things forward. So I really kind of want to read the book just to find out what happens, but I want to wait. And especially because they're kind of deviating from the book anyway.
Yeah.
It's exciting to see what they're going to come up with.
What do you think? Do you think the algorithm is actually an AI? Or do you think the algorithm might be a person? Or-
Actually controlling it?
Did you have any theories about that?
No, but my guess is that it's an AI.
Hmm.
I feel like if there's a person, maybe initially there was a person controlling things or a group of people. But my guess is that they would all have died
Mm-hmm.
and the algorithm is just kind of running its own thing now. I
Mm.
just think usually with sci-fi type things like this and AI, it's always more effective and more haunting,
Yeah.
and the point they want to make is watch out for technology, right?
Yeah.
Like once, it kind of starts doing its own thing. So that's what I'm gonna guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was
Maybe
also
there used to be people when they're no longer, people.
I was also interested if like Solo or Jimmy ever talked to the algorithm because he does talk about like having voices in his head,
Hmm.
but he was never cleared to become head of IT or Shadow.
Hmm.
So it's like maybe he never actually spoke to the algorithm, and I noticed they never had the algorithm speak in that silo. But I'm just really curious to know if like they shut that silo completely down and just like gave up on it but didn't kill them,
Hmm.
because there's still remaining people they could apparently kill but decided not to. So I'm super curious to hear more about why they kept them alive and if there's a reason for it.
Oh, and then the other thing that we're really left with a cliffhanger is when Juliet meets Bernard in the kind of passageway,
Mm-hmm.
she locks them both in because she says that she has a way to
Stop
stop
the
the
safeguard.
safeguard. So like, how is that going to happen, right? But then she locks him in, and then the flames,
Fire.
decontaminate everything. Which she has a fire suit on, and she climbs up the thing, on top of the door or something, right? So she's okay. Oh no, she falls down, but she's protected.
Maybe.
Yeah,
We don't know.
doesn't she climb up to
She
the doorway?
falls.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But obviously, they're not going to kill her off.
They might.
No,
They might.
I don't think she's dead. Like,
I
she
don't
has a
want her
fire
to be
suit
dead.
on.
I think she still has more to do, but this
Yeah.
show just kills people off.
I know. But the question is, what about Bernard?
I think Bernard's dead.
Oh, are you serious?
I think he's dead.
I think that's what's implied, but we don't see him dead.
True.
So that's another question that's kind of hanging in there.
Yeah.
But season 3 is obviously going to be like, starts off with, I think, Rebecca Ferguson getting let out, and then everyone having 1,000 questions for her,
Yeah.
and then her kind of starting to, I guess,
Explain things.
explain things. But now they gotta like figure
But
out a
she's
way
gotta
to
be-
fight the algorithm.
She's got to be clever about it, because if she lets on that she knows too much about the safeguard, then like they're all dead.
That's true.
Yeah.
And the algorithm has access to eyes and ears
Everything,
through all
yeah.
the cameras and stuff.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Very interesting.
So anyway, let us know what you guys thought of season 2 and what theories you guys have, what you think might happen in season 3.
Yeah.
I guess if you read the book, though, maybe try not to spoil things.
You can follow us on YouTube, Letterboxd, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts.
Yeah. And next week, we're going to go back to movies.
Yep.
And so we're going to review A Real Pain, which was just nominated for Best Supporting Actor and Best Original Screenplay. So join us next week as we continue our quest for the 5th star.